Chicago is on the verge of a massive shake-up. A starting linebacker with over 100 tackles might get cut just to free up cap space. But while that bomb is ticking, our head coach just got named one of the top 5 in the NFL, proving everything we've been building is real, and here's the scary part. It's not just one player on the chopping block. There's a wide receiver with a monster contract who could be traded, and another linebacker coming off an injury whose future is hanging by a thread. These are all connected moves that could either keep our championship window wide open or slam it shut. Do we trust the front office, or are we making a huge mistake? Stick around, because this is just getting started. First story, Tremaine Edmunds. Let me be straight with you. After years of watching this team struggle with the salary cap, after seeing us fall short over and over again because we didn't have the space to sign the right guys, we're now in a spot that honestly has me worried, and I mean seriously worried. The Bears are $4 million over the salary cap. Let me say that again, -$4 million. That means we technically can't even sign our draft picks unless we make some serious moves, and this is where things get interesting, or better yet, complicated. Brad Biggs from the Chicago Tribune just dropped a bomb that's got the whole city buzzing. Tremaine Edmunds, the linebacker we signed for $72 million just 3 years ago, might be on the cut list. Yeah, you heard that right. Tremaine Edmunds might not be on this team next season. Now I gotta ask, how did we get here? How is it possible that a guy who just put up 112 tackles for picks and a sack is suddenly in trouble, as Biggs puts it? I'll tell you how. Ryan Poles is looking at the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. If we cut Edmunds, we free up $15 million in cap space. $15 million, that's enough to sign a top-tier edge rusher or extend key players we need to keep. But here's the dilemma. Is it worth giving up a linebacker who's been a rock for our defense? Look at the stats. Edmunds has played 45 games in 3 seasons with us. He's been durable, consistent, exactly what we hoped for when we signed him. But I think there's a bigger picture here. DeMarco Jackson is waiting in the wings, and that kid flashed some serious potential when he got his shot. And here's the wild part. Jackson would probably cost us a fraction of what we're paying Edmunds. We're talking maybe $2 or $3 million versus the $15 million cap hit Edmunds carries. That's a huge difference we could use elsewhere. But here's my concern. Are we being too reactive? Edmunds is only 27. He's not at the end of his career. In fact, a lot of linebackers hit their prime at that age. Urlacher was still dominating in his late 20s. Luke Kuechly was a beast at 27. Patrick Willis, you get the idea. So I ask you, is it worth the risk? Because if we cut Edmunds and Jackson isn't ready, or worse, he gets hurt, then what? We're right back to patching holes with duct tape and prayers. But on the flip side, and this is key, we have to maximize Caleb Williams' rookie window. The kid's still on his rookie deal, which means we've got 3 more years before we're shelling out $60 million a year, 3 years, to build a championship roster around him. And if that means making tough calls now, maybe that's what we gotta do. Look at what the Rams did when Jared Goff was on his rookie deal. They went all in, signed everybody, made it to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they had to rebuild later, but at least they went for it. And I think that's what Poles is thinking right now. Chicago's defense has always been our identity. Monsters of the Midway isn't just a nickname, it's a way of life. From Butkus to Urlacher, Singletary to Briggs, linebackers have been the heart of this defense. So how do you cut a guy who represents that tradition? But here's the truth. Nostalgia doesn't win championships. Smart cap management does. And if Poles thinks those $15 million can be better spent elsewhere, we've got to trust his vision. After all, he brought us Caleb Williams, Rome Oduns, and got us back to the playoffs for the first time since 2020. Now here's the part nobody's talking about. What if Edmunds agrees to restructure? What if he says, I want to stay in Chicago. I want to win a ring here. Let's make it work. That would change everything. But based on what Biggs is reporting, it sounds like the organization has already made up its mind. And when a guy like Biggs says someone's in trouble, it usually means internal talks are already happening. I think it all comes down to one question. Do we trust Marco Jackson? Because if the answer is yes, then cutting Edmunds makes sense. But if there's even a sliver of doubt about him being a full-time starter in this league, then we're playing with fire. And speaking of fire, can you imagine if we cut Edmunds and he signs with the Packers? Or worse, the Vikings? I'd lose my mind, completely lose it, watching a guy we developed, who was part of our rebuild, wearing another jersey in the division would be brutal. But that's the reality of the NFL. No feelings, no loyalty when it comes to the cap. It's a cold, calculated machine that doesn't forgive mistakes. And Poles knows that better than anyone. Look, at the end of the day, I trust Ryan Poles. The guy pulled us out of the Ryan Pace nightmare, gave us hope when we had none. But that doesn't mean I can't question his moves. That doesn't mean I can't be worried about what this means for our defense. Tremaine Edmunds might not be flashy, he might not make the ESPN highlight reel, but he's solid. He's reliable, and in a defense, that's worth its weight in gold. So are we really sure we want to let him go? Second story, Ben Johnson nominated for Coach of the Year, but if that's got you stressed, wait till you hear this, because while we're talking about cuts and cap moves, something amazing just happened that reminds us why we're even in this position to begin with. Ben Johnson, our head coach, just got named one of the 5 finalists for NFL Coach of the Year, and when the Bears posted it on social media, they said it best with just 3 words: that's our coach. Let me tell you something, this isn't just about individual recognition. This is validation for everything we've built this year. This is the NFL saying, yeah, Chicago's back. Yeah, the Bears are for real. Yeah, Ben Johnson is the truth. 11 wins, 6 losses, first playoff win since 2010. First playoff win since 2010. Do you realize what that means? We went 16 years without a postseason victory. 16 years. And not only did we win one, we beat the Packers at Soldier Field in January. Let me ask you, when was the last time you felt that kind of pride in this team? When was the last time you looked at the Bears and thought, yeah, these guys can hang with anybody? I'd say you'd have to go back to 2018, when Khalil Mack was wrecking everything, and the defense was terrifying. But here's the difference. In 2018, we knew Trubisky was the ceiling. We knew his inaccuracy would eventually catch up to us. But now, with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson developing him, the sky's the limit. And that's what makes this nomination so special. Johnson's going up against some heavy hitters. Mike Vrabel, who's got the Patriots 1 win away from the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan, one of the best offensive minds in the game. Mike McDonald in Seattle. Liam Cohen in Jacksonville. These aren't just coaches, these are the best of the best. And Ben Johnson is right there with them, after 1 year, after 1 season. Do you realize how insane that is? Look at what Johnson did with Caleb Williams. The kid came in with all the hype, all the pressure of being the number 1 pick, all the Mahomes comparisons, and Johnson handled it perfectly. Didn't overload him, didn't rush him. Just let him grow. Let him learn, and look at the results. The Bears finished with a top 10 offense in all 4 major categories. Top 10. When was the last time we could say that? I'll tell you, probably never in the modern era. This franchise has always been about defense and the run game. But Johnson flipped that script completely, and let's talk about comebacks. 6 fourth quarter comebacks in the regular season. 6. That's an NFL record. Then we added a 7th against the Packers in the playoffs. That's not luck. That's not random. That's a coach who's got his team ready, believing, and fighting to the last second. Remember the 0 to the start? I do. I remember sitting there thinking, here we go again, another year, another letdown. But Johnson never panicked, never lost faith. And the team responded by winning 11 of the last 15 games. That's leadership. That's what separates good coaches from great ones. Anybody can win when things are going right, but keeping a team together after a rough start, that takes something special. And let's talk about how he handled the Packers rivalry. The guy came into his intro presser and basically told Matt LaFleur, I'm coming for you. Then he backed it up by winning 2 out of 3, including the game that clinched the division and the one that ended their season in Chicago. That makes you a legend. Beating the Packers isn't just another game. It's part of who we are. It's part of being a Bear. And Johnson got that from day one. Now, is he gonna win the award? Honestly, probably not. Vrabel's got the Patriots in the AFC title game. That's tough to beat. But the fact that Johnson's even in the conversation, that's huge for this franchise, because I guarantee you, free agents are watching. I guarantee you when March rolls round and players are deciding where to sign, they're gonna see that Ben Johnson is building something special in Chicago. They're gonna see this isn't the same dysfunctional mess it used to be. And that brings us back to the Edmunds decision. Because if Johnson is being recognized as one of the best coaches in the league, then we've got to give him the tools to succeed. We've got to give him the cap space to bring in the guys he wants. We've got to trust his vision. Johnson said something in his end-of-season presser that stuck with me. He said, "There's no building on this, we're back at square one, we're back at the bottom again. We've got to start over with the fundamentals, that's a championship mindset. That's not being satisfied with just making the playoffs, that's wanting more, and I think that's exactly the attitude we need if we're finally gonna bring a title back to Chicago." Look, Matt Nagy won this award in 2018 after going 12-4. And we all know how that ended, so winning Coach of the Year doesn't guarantee anything. But what it does guarantee is that we've got the right guy, we've got the right leader, and if we give him the support he needs, if we make the right moves this offseason, I believe we can compete for a Super Bowl next year. Third story, possible additional cuts, and just when you thought we were done with the tough news, here comes the really tricky part. Because Tremaine Edmunds isn't the only player who might be on the chopping block. Oh no, this goes way deeper and gets way more complicated. Brad Biggs also mentioned to other names that have Bears fans split right down the middle, DJ Moore and TJ Edwards, and let me tell you, these are conversations I never thought we'd be having a year ago. Let's start with DJ Moore. The guy's got a cap hit of $28.5 million next year. $28.5 million. That's more than any other player on the roster. And here's the issue, we can't cut him. Literally can't cut him, there's no cap savings if we do. So what's the move? A trade. And I gotta ask, do we really want to do that? Do we really want to ship out Caleb Williams' #1 receiver just as they're starting to build chemistry? Look, I know Moore had an up and down year. I know there were moments where he looked frustrated, maybe even checked out, but he also had moments where he was flat out dominant. And more importantly, Ben Johnson just said in his exit presser that Moore was a huge part of getting us where we are. But here's the reality, if we can find a team willing to take on that contract, we could free up serious space for the future. The problem is, Moore's base salary next year is $23.485 million. What team is going to want to take that on? Especially with how deep the receiver market is right now. Biggs floated the idea of a one-year rental for a team that's one wideout away from contending. But I think that's wishful thinking. If we try to trade Moore, we might have to throw in draft picks or eat part of his salary. And at that point, is it even worth it? Now let's talk about TJ Edwards. This one hits hard because Edwards has been exactly what we hoped for when we signed him. He was a leader on that defense, the brain that made everything click. And then he broke his fibula in the win over the Packers. Edwards turns 30 next season. He just signed a 2-year, $20 million extension back in April, and now he's coming off a serious injury. So I ask you, is that enough to consider cutting him? Biggs raised the question, does the conversation shift a bit now that Edwards broke his fibula? And I think that's fair, because if Edwards can't get back to full speed, if the injury limits his mobility, then we're paying $10 million a year for a guy who can't play at the level we need. But here's my counterpoint, Edwards is the kind of player you can't just replace. His football IQ, his ability to read plays, his leadership on the field, those don't show up on the stat sheet. But they're absolutely critical to a successful defense, and if we cut both Edmunds and Edwards, who's left at linebacker? DeMarco Jackson and who else? Are we really gonna roll into next season with a completely rebuilt linebacker corps and expect to compete for a title? I'm telling you right now, there's a fine line between being aggressive with the cap and being reckless. And if we cut 3 starters just to create space, we might be crossing that line. But on the other hand, and this is what makes these decisions so brutal, we have to think big picture. We have to think about maximizing our window with Caleb Williams. And if that means making painful moves now to be better positioned later, maybe that's what we've got to do. Look at what the Rams did in 2021. They cut guys, restructured deals, went all in, and they won the Super Bowl. Yeah, they paid the price later, but they got the ring. And I think most Bears fans would trade 5 years of mediocrity for a championship right now. The problem is, there are no guarantees. We can make all these moves, clear all this cap space, sign the right free agents and still come up short. That's the nature of this sport. That's the NFL. But what I do know is this, Ryan Poles isn't making these decisions lightly. The guy's shown he has a plan. He's shown he knows what he's doing, and if he believes these moves are necessary, then we've got to trust him, because at the end of the day, this isn't about Tremaine Edmunds, or DJ Moore, or TJ Edwards individually. This is about building a championship team. This is about bringing a Super Bowl back to Chicago. And if that means saying goodbye to players we like, then so be it. So I ask you, would you rather have a team full of likable guys who never win anything? Or a team of champions you might not know? As well, I think the answer's pretty clear. Chicago deserves a winner. This city, with its history, its passion, its unshakable loyalty, deserves to see the Bears hoist the Lombardi Trophy. And if Ryan Poles thinks these moves get us closer to that goal, then I'm 100% behind him. So let me ask you this, Bears family, are you on board with cutting Tremaine Edmunds to free up $15 million in cap space? Or do you think we should keep him and find the money somewhere else? Because that's the million-dollar question. And about Ben Johnson being nominated for Coach of the Year. Do you think he's got a real shot at winning it, or is Vrabel the clear favorite? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think. And finally, when it comes to possibly trading DJ Moore or cutting TJ Edwards, where do you draw the line? How much are you willing to sacrifice to maximize Caleb Williams' window? Look, I know these are tough conversations. I know there are no easy answers, but that's what makes this moment so critical for the franchise. The decisions Ryan Poles makes in the next few weeks are going to shape the next 5 years of Chicago Bears football, and I want you to be part of that conversation. I want this community, this Bears fan family, to be involved every step of the way, because this isn't just my channel. This is OUR channel. This is where real Chicago fans come to talk about their team. No filters, no fluff, just pure Bears passion. So if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the bell so you don't miss a single update, because I promise you, tomorrow we're gonna have even more explosive info coming out of Hollis Hall. And if you like this video, if you learned something new, if I made you think differently about these situations, drop a like. Share it with your Bears fan friends. Let's grow this community together, because at the end of the day, we are the Bears, we are Chicago, and no matter who's wearing the navy and orange, we're gonna be right there, backing them up, because that's what we do, that's who we are. Bear down, family. I'll see you in the next video.